Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov. Growing up in a rabbinic home, hospitality was always at the center of our family life, certainly at the center of our congregational life. And whether I was a counselor or a first-time homeowner, hospitality came naturally to me. And being a rabbi, gathering together with my congregation, I always saw as a pleasure and an extension of hospitality. I admit, however, that the pandemic has thrown all of this into a tailspin. I'm sure many of you also think of yourselves as good hosts. You love inviting guests into your home, and that came to a standstill. Others love being guests and miss being invited to other people's tables. And this is one of those losses that we haven't named, but we feel it. We're diminished without good hospitality. So I've been studying up in a way that I never had to before about gathering. There's a book entitled The Art of Gathering, and I'm turning to it now in order to receive instruction, which I never needed before, but how to invite people back, how to invite people to gather in one another's company in these beautiful spaces which are ours at Holy Blossom Temple. Priya Parker writes in The Art of Gathering, "We gather to solve problems we can't solve on our own. We gather to celebrate, to mourn, and to mark transitions. We gather to make decisions. We gather because we need one another. We gather to show strength. We gather to honor and acknowledge. We gather to build companies and schools and neighborhoods. We gather to welcome, and we gather to say goodbye." Throughout the pandemic, I have said heavy-heartedly that it is hard to be a congregation when we cannot congregate. That is our very definition. And it's true that sometimes the simple and profound act of gathering in sacred community is the end in and of itself, but Priya Parker challenges her readers to articulate why. What is the purpose of gathering? And perhaps we need to articulate this to ourselves and to one another again so that we can reclaim it. Let's take this morning for example. An outside observer would assume that we are gathering on this Shabbat morning to pray to God and to study Torah. And those assumptions are correct, but they are not the whole story. Why have we gathered today, in person and online? Some have come to witness the coming of age, to celebrate the wondrous moment when a boy named Evan becomes, in the eyes of the Jewish people, a person who is now responsible for the mitzvot. Those who have gathered for this purpose are motivated by love of family and good friendship. Some have gathered this day, like Adam and Chava, in anticipation of a wedding day, not only to anchor themselves to the Jewish traditions which they cherish, but also because they know there is power in belonging to a circle that is larger than their circle of family and friends. That smaller, intimate circle will gather with you around the chuppah in Montreal, and you will go there knowing that you have the weight of the congregation behind you, the love of the congregation behind you. By standing at the Torah this day, your union is miraculously and simultaneously witnessed by communities past, present, and future. Some have come this day with simple gratitude, wanting to express thanks to God for recovery from illness, the birth of a grandchild, and for the simple joys of the season, long walks on long evenings, sitting by the lakeside or the seaside, gratitude for being able to claim new opportunities, newfound opportunities to travel again in good health. The words of our Haftarah speak to these simple reasons to gather and express gratitude. There it is written, the prophet Isaiah teaches, morning by morning, God awakens me, awakens my ear, and teaches me to listen. A curriculum in gratitude. But all these reasons for coming on this Shabbat morning mostly go unarticulated. And Parker challenges us to name why we gather. Most folks come and go from gatherings only by naming the category. What does Parker mean? In our context, we might say, I went to a bar mitzvah at Holy Blossom Temple. Or we might say, I'm going to go for Rosh Hashanah at Holy Blossom Temple. Or parents are now telling their children, soon you'll be going to Hebrew school at Holy Blossom Temple. These are the categories of the tasks, but not the reasons why. Parker claims that even hosts and conveners of the gatherings, rabbis, cantors, teachers, educators, and presidents, we can skip over the step of naming the why and get on to the category at hand. For example, is the purpose of a board meeting to go through the agenda that was set? Or is there something greater underpinning that gathering? And if so, how can that be articulated so that the agenda is deepened and enriched and expanded? Those of you in workplaces might ask these questions that Parker poses. In our parasha, Moses explains to the people of Israel the purpose for gathering in the wilderness. Why did God convene the gathering of 600,000 souls in the wilderness over the course of 40 years? That's some good hospitality. God explains the why of the wilderness. Moses says, remember the way. Remember the path. Remember the long way that the eternal your God has made you to travel in the wilderness these past 40 years. Why? So that God might test you. So that you might learn what is in your hearts. So that God might learn what is in your hearts. So that God will know whether you will keep the mitzvot or not. That was the reason for the gathering in the wilderness. So that God would know whether or not we could be entrusted to live lives of mitzvot. And it seems we passed the test. So what is the art of gathering in the synagogue? Why synagogue? Why in person? Why online? I know these are questions that are being asked among congregant circles these days as we anticipate the High Holy Days. Pre-pandemic, I would say that all of congregational life was for the sake of discovering life's meaning and life's purpose. Because here we ask the big questions, and here we get to the heart of the matter, and here we attach ourselves to something larger than ourselves, something sacred, something eternal. And all that is still true. And today, as we are emerging, thank God, from the pandemic, or thank God, learning how to live with it, I would add another immediate why for gathering in synagogue. Why do we gather as a congregation? In a word, comfort. There is so much need for comforting today, to give comfort and to receive it. This pandemic has made everyone fearful, has made each of us vulnerable. The pandemic has made everyone a kind of a mourner, and we are in need of comfort. Why does a mourner gravitate to minyan, to say Kaddish? What is the purpose of that particular gathering? To be held in the embrace of the community, to be held by the sounds of our tradition, sometimes beautiful and joyful, sometimes stirring and sad. When we feel adrift, we come as mourners to be buoyed by the rhythms of something that is old and lasting. When we feel untethered because life is changed unexpectedly, we come to be anchored by words that are ancient and enduring. Just as Isaiah prophesied in our Haftarah, the one who walks in darkness, though he has no light, he shall be the one who trusts in the eternal and leans upon God. The loneliness and the isolation of the pandemic has proven to be unhealthy for all of us. So gathering in sacred community can be claimed as an antidote to that seclusion. This is why I can tell you our Habsty Youth Group Lounge was jumping on Monday nights this past semester. Kids of all ages, tweens and teens, they knew they had catching up to do socially. Life in lockdown was a shot in their confidence. Some forgot how to speak easily with their peers, how to look each other in the eye. And so Holy Blossom Temple Senior School became a safe place for them to come and practice, to make a new friend, to laugh out loud again, to flirt a little. And I should say here something about attachment through technology versus in person. I know that for our longtime congregants who already have well-established memories of life at Holy Blossom Temple and well-established relationships with one another, I have seen how they can very easily tune in and attach themselves, plugging in immediately through the live stream or through Zoom, and the experience is fulfilling. When the relationships are strong, they can be maintained well, even through the screen. I've come to appreciate that, to my surprise. But for young families, for children and teens, for newcomers who do not have a lifetime of Jewish memories and Jewish experiences to draw upon, it isn't enough. We learned this during the first pandemic high holidays. When we were in lockdown, we expertly prepared gorgeous, engaging children's services with all the bells and whistles. But families didn't attend as we had expected, not through the screen. And so last year, the second pandemic high holidays, you remember that thanks to the Blidner family, we were able to unfurl an enormous tent in the parking lot so that families could gather to greet the new year and to greet one another, and they did. This year, thanks to vaccines available to children, we are bringing family services and Little Blossom services and young reader services back in-house here at Holy Blossom. And what will be the purpose of that gathering? To nurture the spirit of our young people, to model a life of prayer that they have not seen in action, not with their very own eyes, not often enough. We will model for them sacred rituals, hear the shofar, see the Torah. We will raise up the next generation of vibrant Jewish life by gathering together. So one more thing. Yes, gathering as a congregation entitles us to a safe place, good company, where we can discover meaning and purpose together, where we can find comfort in our tradition and among our people. And there is one more thing, one more good reason for gathering, at least one. And that is to dream again. We have been hoping and longing and yearning for a very long time now. And in Jerusalem, I had a chance to study with Yehuda Kurtzer at the Hartman Institute. And I've been thinking about something he said about dreaming. And it makes me realize that it is time to set down the hoping, the yearning, the longing, and it's time to pick up some dreaming. Our Torah portion points to it. God says through Moses, "For the land that you are about to enter and possess is not like the land of Egypt from which you have come. There the grain you sowed had to be watered by your own labors like a vegetable garden. But the land you are about to cross into and possess, the land of Israel, is a land of hills and valleys which soaks up its water from the rains of heaven. It is a land which the eternal your God looks after, on which the eternal your God always keeps an eye, from year's beginning to year's end." And so the gathering in the wilderness was also for the purpose of dreaming together about the day that we could cross over the Jordan River and enter into a land where we could call home, we could sow our own fields, raise our own children, and their imagination would be sparked. 2.5 years of pandemic have knocked out the ability to imagine and to dream for many of us. Yes, there's hoping and longing, but where is the dreaming? Where is the imagination? Where is the creativity? Where is the innovation? Even in the wilderness, our ancestors dreamed. They dreamed of a land of promise. And now, on the verge, not of the land, but on the verge of a new year also filled with promise. With Rosh Hashanah just on the horizon, we too can begin to dream together again. All gatherings begin with an invitation. So I invite every one of you to please extend an invitation to someone you know. Through the art of gathering, we can expand our congregation, greet the new year, greet newcomers, greet one another. For here we can find meaning and purpose and comfort, and here we can begin to dream again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.